This is TWiT.
You want to talk about so Microsoft calls it SolarWinds.
I know.
Oh,
yeah,
do they?
What, is that from
SolarWinds.
is it a Watergate thing? Because it was SolarWinds, right?
right.
Yep.
But they're calling it SolarWinds.
I know.
Well, I'm not sure what that means, but anyway,
I don't know what to say to that, but
yeah. Microsoft revealed earlier this week that some of their employees' accounts have been broken into, and they say
they literally posted about this on New Year's Eve, like at night.
Well,
when
you know
nobody
why,
was
right?
paying attention.
Yeah, exactly.
But they say that they just had read-only access. They didn't have read-write access to the source code.
Yeah, and right, that's right. So they compromised some Microsoft employee accounts. Were able to view source code. They didn't say for which products. It sounds serious, but the thing is, first of all, with the understanding this is probably a Russian attack on the United States. Microsoft already makes their source code available to countries like Russia, so I don't know. I don't think it was about getting the source code. I think it was more just the whole hack thing. But Microsoft also explained their approach to. I mean, God, could you just go open source, Microsoft? They have this thing called an inner source approach to software developments, which they describe as a combination of open source software development best practices and open source like culture. Just go open source. Anyway, to make its source code viewable to employees within Microsoft. So I don't know that every single employee can view every single bit of source code, but Microsoft says they don't rely on the secrecy of their source code.
Yeah, nothing to worry about. In fact,
Mark Russinovich said at one point he wanted to open source Windows. You remember that? That was like several years ago, and everyone was like, "What?"
That was the thing that the SolarWinds folks said is, "Oh no, we're more secure because we're not open source. You wouldn't want to use open source software." Well, that did not play out.
No, that didn't go well.
Is it your sense that Microsoft has handled this issue well? I mean, they were victims of it for sure. They probably weren't used to perpetrate it. Is their security good?
Based on what they're saying now, it's hard to say because this thing kind of escalates, right? So
it's getting worse every day, it seems like.
Right. But as far as Microsoft's concerned, the one thing they said in this particular report from last week was now that they've investigated it further, they've figured out which accounts were compromised. They fixed that. They haven't found any evidence. I'm going to paraphrase this because they use a lot of language here, but any evidence of the types of attacks that others have seen against its own corporate domain. So in other words, the hackers got in, they basically compromised some accounts, they viewed some source code. I don't know what other silliness occurred, but they never tried to attack Microsoft's internal corporate domain. And maybe that was just a sleeper thing where they were waiting for some time or, and it got caught or whatever. I don't think Microsoft was the a primary target of this, right? Obviously this is a state-sponsored thing that has more to do with probably government entities and but big corporations like Microsoft were involved. So
I get the feeling. I'd like to know how they're disclosing things, right? Are they only disclosing it when they've got reporters with their finger on the publish button going, "We're going to say that you got hacked." Microsoft, right? Or are they doing it as they're actually learning themselves, or is it like a combination? That's just I'm just kind of fascinated with the publicity strategy around this because it feels like, the whole New Year's Eve at 4 p.m. Eastern disclosing, by the way, our source code was, viewed, blah, blah, blah.
I was already 2 martinis in. What was I going to write?
Exactly. When I saw that tweet come across, I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not covering this and we have a security reporter on ZDNet who's doing this.
I was just like, I'll deal with this tomorrow. I can't.
Yeah. They keep saying, though, that none of their customers were breached through them, which is
through Microsoft. Right. Microsoft was not used as an attack vector. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yep.
So that's what most customers will care about. It's like, okay, that's bad. You got hacked, but what about me? Am I able to be hacked through you? So, not great. Not a great look for anybody, right? Not just Microsoft. There are, like you said, a lot of big tech companies who were compromised, plus the government and everybody else.